WNBA are not going to be happy with this. That's all I'm going to say. They are absolutely positively not going to be happy with this right here. If you guys don't know, obviously Caitlin Clark is what you call it. She is she's going to be in the WNBA as part of a
This isn't about a hot take. This isn't about sports debate. What you're about to see is a direct collision between two completely different versions of reality. On one side, a professional sports league that just had its greatest year ever. On the other, its own television partners. And caught in the middle is one player, whose very presence has forced everyone to answer a brutal, multi-billion-dollar question. What is the true value of a star?
Everyone has to be equal. And this is what NBC have said. There is no more iconic figure in basketball, in women's game right now, or the game in general, about Caitlin Clark. In the game in general, that's all I gotta say is that
the explosion was triggered by a single sentence. On January 28, 2026, NBC Sports announced that Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark will be joining their brand new NBA Sunday night broadcast as a special contributor. But it was the reason why that sent shockwaves through the basketball world. NBC Sports executive producer Sam Flood didn't just welcome her to the team. He made a declaration that you simply don't hear. He said, "There's no more iconic figure in basketball in the women's game right now, or the game in general." Let that sink in for a second. Not the most iconic figure in the WNBA. Not in women's basketball. In basketball, period. A major network, which also broadcasts WNBA games, just stated on the record that a 23-year-old WNBA sophomore is a bigger icon than LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Or they're not seen as problematic in the league. But now the executive producer for NBC Sports has basically said, yeah, there's no more relevant player, not only in the women's game. And this should be the biggest duh for the WNBA and the biggest W, that they have basically just said that a player in their league is now, in fact, the most iconic figure in basketball. This is on an NBA post.
This wasn't fan chatter. This was an executive with access to every ratings point, every social metric, and every advertiser dollar, making a cold, hard business assessment. And that assessment has ripped open a divide that's been simmering for years, exposing a fundamental war over the soul of the WNBA. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this story is evolving by the day, and you don't want to miss what happens next.
Basketball, definitely there's in terms of pro leagues, I don't think there's anyone in the debate that's not a male or female. But at the end of the day, it's what you call it. It's an obvious statement, but they're not going to be happy. You just know it. Like, people are not going to be happy, basically, with, instead of where people should be happy being like, oh my God, people are actually saying that about a women's basketball player.
This moment goes beyond a simple compliment. It's a market correction, an outside entity placing a definitive value on an asset that its own league seems hesitant to fully price. Think of it like a rival company offering your star employee a massive public endorsement while you're still negotiating their internal raise. It changes the entire dynamic, shifting leverage and forcing uncomfortable truths into the light. The WNBA has built its culture on collective struggle and shared success, a philosophy born from decades of fighting for survival. But NBC's statement is a siren call from the ruthless world of entertainment economics, where individual star power is the ultimate currency.
Saying Caitlin Clark is, the most relevant person in basketball, no, that's racist. Like, I haven't seen that much of it, to be fair. And to be fair, most of the backlash is nonsense accounts on Twitter. But at the end of the day, it's it is what it is. It's the same bullshit narrative that we've seen.
This isn't just about recognizing talent. It's about quantifying influence in a way that threatens to upend a carefully balanced ecosystem. To understand why this one statement is so explosive, you have to look at the incredible, yet deeply contradictory moment the WNBA is in. By every traditional measure, the league is soaring. The 2024 season was a historic breakout. It was the most watched regular season in 24 years. Games on ESPN and ABC were pulling in over 2 million viewers, numbers that were once unthinkable. Arenas were packed, with total attendance hitting a 22-year high, and the Indiana Fever, Clark's team, setting a single-season home attendance record. Merchandise sales exploded by 601%. This was a rising tide the league had worked for decades to achieve.
Months, years, and it's never going to stop. Caitlin Clark could win 10 rings and they're still going to complain about her not winning in high school. Like, I just mean it where it's like, these people, none of this is relevant to anything. Like, it is funny in terms of the relevancy. Like, the players have been offered amounts of money that they dreamed of getting. And are calling it slaps in the face. They're getting the coverage that they've always wanted to get.
But within that success lies attention. The league's official releases celebrated the collective. Meanwhile, the narrative in the broader media and undeniably in the financial data kept pointing to a few specific individuals as the primary engines of that growth. This created an awkward dance. For instance, after the playoffs, the WNBA, the Players Union, released a statement highlighting the impact of veterans like Alyssa Thomas in driving the record season. To many fans, this felt like a deliberate effort to shift the spotlight away from the rookies, Clark and Angel Reese, who were dominating headlines. Whether intended or not, it signaled a philosophy.
Said that Alyssa Thomas was the reason why people are watching. And by the way, it's not even, people are like, oh, it was the finals about Alyssa Thomas. No. They literally said, it wasn't just the playoffs, but our regular season broke records as fans went to watch Alyssa Thomas. Like, that is a statement. That is a statement the WNBA had put out. I have to say that is a statement that they had put out to say that fans came to watch Alyssa Thomas instead of Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese.
The collective is paramount. No single player is bigger than the league. However, the data tells a story of specific gravitational pull. A staggering 22 regular season games averaged over 1 million viewers, a feat previously rare for the league. The games that shattered records had a common thread. They featured the Indiana Fever. The most watched regular season game ever on ESPN was Indiana versus Chicago. The two most watched games ever on ABC featured Indiana. The Fever were involved in the 3 single games that drew over 20,000 fans. This is to say other stars like Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, or Alyssa Thomas aren't massively popular. They absolutely are, and they delivered historic performances. But the viewership patterns create an undeniable map, and at the center of the highest traffic is Caitlin Clark's team. The league is experiencing a collective boom, but the ignition source of that boom is traceable, measurable, and incredibly specific. This creates the core contradiction. How do you manage a rising tide when one particular wave is demonstrably responsible for lifting all ships? This is where Sam Flood's NBC comment isn't just an opinion, it's a challenge to that entire philosophy. NBC isn't a blogger. It's a broadcast partner with hundreds of millions of dollars invested. When its executive producer says Clark is the most iconic figure in the sport, he's telling advertisers, this is where the audience is. He's telling the NBA, this voice will draw eyes to your product. It's the ultimate validation of individual star power in a system built on equity, and it forces a reckoning. Can you celebrate the rising tide while also acknowledging the hurricane that stirred the ocean? Flood's language was precise and unqualified. He didn't say one of the most iconic or a captivating new voice. He said the most iconic figure. This places Clark not just above her WNBA peers, but in a conversation with LeBron James and Steph Curry for the title of the face of American basketball. For NBC, this is a business strategy. They just reacquired NBA broadcast rights after decades and are launching Sunday Night Basketball to compete directly with established shows like TNT's inside the NBA. They need a unique weapon, a reason for viewers to switch channels. In Clark, they see a transcendent talent whose appeal crosses gender lines and brings with her a massive, dedicated, and young fan base that traditional NBA coverage might not reach. They are essentially betting that Clark's cultural cachet is strong enough to attract viewers to an NBA broadcast, a stunning reversal of the typical sports media hierarchy. The plot thickens when you realize where Clark is going. She's not joining a WNBA broadcast. She's being inserted into the heart of the NBA's media machine. On February 1st, she'll be on the set of Basketball Night in America at Madison Square Garden, sitting alongside Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony, Vince Carter, and Tracy McGrady to talk about Lakers-Knicks. For NBC, this is a masterstroke. They're launching a new NBA show in the shadow of TNT's legendary, Inside the NBA. They need something different, a fresh voice that cuts through the noise. Caitlin Clark, a current superstar with a massive, engaged fan base, is that weapon. But within the WNBA ecosystem, this move is loaded with subtext. An NBC analyst, Zena Keita, praised Clark's basketball IQ, but also voiced a natural hesitation about her transition to live television, noting the unique pressure of the panel format. Yet, the bigger story is the timing. Clark's NBC debut isn't just a side gig. It's happening in February 2026, while the WNBA she's supposed to be playing in is trapped in a dangerous limbo. This crossover is unprecedented for an active WNBA player. It shatters an invisible wall that has often kept women's sports stars confined to coverage of their own leagues. By placing Clark as an authority figure on the NBA, NBC is making a profound statement. Her basketball insight is valuable and relevant to the discussion of the sport at its highest level, period. It legitimizes her in the eyes of a broader and often more skeptical sports audience. However, it also creates a potential loyalty conflict. Is Clark first and foremost a WNBA ambassador, or is she now a broader basketball personality, whose platform just happens to include the WNBA? For a league that asks its players to be relentless advocates, seeing a top star build her brand on an NBA stage could feel like a divergence of interests, even as it brings unprecedented attention. This brings us to the real-world crisis that makes all of this more than just philosophical debate. The league and the WNBPA are currently deadlocked in negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement, the contract that governs everything. The previous deal expired, and after 2 short extensions, the 2 sides are now in a status quo period, meaning the old rules technically apply but no progress is being made. And the gap between them isn't small. It's a canyon. The players, led by President Nneka Agwemike, are fighting for what they call a transformative deal. Their core demand is a share of the league's gross revenue, the money that comes in before expenses are paid. They propose a system where they get about 30% of that gross figure. Their argument is simple. They are the product. They should be paid from the top line, not the leftovers. To them, this is about finally being valued after decades of being told to wait for the league to grow. The league and its owners see it completely differently. They propose giving the players over 50% of net revenue, the profit after accounting for massive expenses like charter flights, a new, huge cost, upgraded facilities, marketing, and operations. The WNBA claims the players' gross revenue model would, based on their projections, cause catastrophic losses, hundreds of millions of dollars over the life of the deal, more than the league has lost in its entire history. They argue this would bankrupt teams and jeopardize the very stability the players want. And then there's housing. For decades, the league has provided housing or a stipend to players. In these negotiations, the league proposed removing that benefit. For many players, this wasn't just a financial item. It was a symbol of disrespect, an attempt to take away a fundamental piece of security in a career where you can be traded across the country at a moment's notice. This issue cuts to the heart of the trust deficit between the players and the league. While other major professional sports leagues do not provide housing, the WNBA's historical context is different. For years, salaries were so low that securing short-term housing in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago was a genuine hardship. The housing provision was a necessary support system, not a luxury. For the league to propose cutting it now, even while offering higher salaries, feels to players like an attempt to claw back a cherished benefit just as they're on the cusp of real financial gains. It's interpreted as a message: we'll pay you more, but we're taking away the safety net that made your careers possible. Players argue that even with proposed raises, those on non-guaranteed contracts or rookies still face immense instability, making housing security essential. It has become the emotional core of the negotiation, representing whether the league truly values player welfare or just sees them as a line item. The stakes are almost unimaginably high. The league's latest offer would raise the maximum salary from about $249,000 to a base of $1 million, with potential to reach $1.3 million with revenue sharing. The average salary would jump from $120,000 to over $530,000. These are life-changing numbers. But the players are holding the line, believing this is their once-in-a-generation moment to secure a fair share of the value they are creating. They've even authorized a strike vote, giving their leadership the power to walk out if necessary. The players' resolve is hardened by the visible success around them. They see a league that just had its most watched season in a generation, sold out arenas, and saw merchandise sales explode by over 600%. They see expansion fees from new teams in Toronto and Portland and soaring franchise valuations. Union President Nneka Agwamike gave a telling analogy, saying the league claiming poverty is like saying their pockets are empty while you're also holding the keys to a brand new Ferrari. From the players' perspective, they drove that Ferrari to the showroom, and now they want a key of their own. They are no longer willing to accept promises of future prosperity. They want a concrete, immediate shared prosperity they are visibly generating now. The fight is over whether they are employees receiving a salary or essential partners entitled to a direct cut of the revenue. So let's connect these threads. You have a league experiencing unprecedented growth, largely catalyzed by a new generation of stars. You have those stars, particularly Caitlin Clark, being anointed as global icons by outside business partners. And you have a bitter fight over money and control, with the entire 2026 season hanging in the balance. This is a pressure cooker. The NBC statement acts like a flare, illuminating the central tension. The players are arguing for a revenue share based on the value they create. NBC, by calling Clark the most iconic figure in basketball, has just placed an astronomical public valuation on the kind of star power the WNBA possesses. It validates the players' core argument. Their talent is driving the business. If one player can be deemed that valuable to a national broadcast network, how can a league deny that the collective group of players is worth a significant fixed percentage of all incoming revenue? The two narratives are now in direct conversation. The league's internal struggle to balance collective credit with individual stardom is now being judged against the cold, hard calculus of the external media market. Every day, Clark appears on NBC discussing the NBA. The player's bargaining position is subtly strengthened, and the league's traditional all-for-one model is implicitly challenged, which leads us to the most startling implication of all. What happens if there is number 2026 WNBA season? For veteran stars with established overseas connections, it's difficult but manageable. But for Caitlin Clark, the calculus is different. Her relevance is a cultural phenomenon tied to accessibility, being on national TV every other night in the American sports conversation. If that disappears and she spent a year playing in Turkey or Hungary, that cultural moment passes. The window closes. This is where the existence of alternative leagues like Unrivaled, the player-led 3-on-3 league founded by Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, becomes crucial. It offers a domestic, high-profile option. However, it can't replace the WNBA scale, tradition, or 5-on-5 format. For Clark, a lockout could mean a choice between obscurity overseas or a different style of play in Unrivaled. Both options risk diluting her brand, which is built on being the face of the WNBA. A lost season could stall the incredible momentum she has generated, alienate casual fans who just tuned in, and reset the growth trajectory. The players are aware of this risk, but their belief is that short-term pain is necessary for long-term structural gain. They are betting that the league needs them, and the stars that drive viewership, more than they need to play under what they consider an unfair deal. NBC's move to put her on an NBA panel now looks less like a cool opportunity and more like a strategic life raft. It keeps her in the spotlight on American television in the conversation about basketball. It protects their investment in her as a media personality, regardless of what the WNBA decides to do. In a very real way, NBC is signaling that they value Caitlin Clark's individual star power enough to build it into their programming, even as a league she plays for struggles to agree on her value within its own system. This is an incredible insurance policy for Clark. If the WNBA locks out, she isn't silenced. She has a premier national platform. Her voice remains in living rooms across America, analyzing LeBron James and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This maintains her relevance, continues to build her personal brand, and could even make her more valuable to the WNBA when she returns. For NBC, it's a win-win. They get a ratings draw for their NBA coverage, and they secure a relationship with a generational talent whose future, in many ways, is bigger than any single league. It's a stark reminder that in the modern media landscape, athletes are their own franchises, and networks will invest in the individual, even when the institution they play for is in turmoil. This is the heart of the conflict. The WNBA's ethos has been built on sacrifice, on growing together, on the idea that we're all in this equally. That ethos built the league. But now, market forces, in the form of record ratings, sold-out jerseys, and a broadcast partner's stunning endorsement, are screaming that individualism drives the business. The NBA didn't become a global giant by pretending Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James were just part of collective. It marketed them as the sun around which the league orbited, and everyone benefited from the heat. The WNBA now faces its own version of this choice. Does it cling to its hard-won culture of equity, potentially sidelining its most powerful marketing weapon in the process? Or does it lean into the uncomfortable reality that stars like Caitlin Clark, Aya Wilson, and Angel Reese are the keys to unlocking the next level of financial prosperity for everyone? Can it find a way to do both, to celebrate its stars in a way that lifts all of its players? This is not just a business dilemma, it's an identity crisis. The league's emphasis on collective struggle is a point of pride and a real bond among players. Yet, that very culture can sometimes manifest as resistance to the outsized attention given to rookies like Clark and Reese, seen by some veterans as not having paid their dues. The challenge is to evolve from a culture of equal sacrifice to one of equitable success, where superstars are amplified not as exceptions, but as proof of what's possible, creating larger opportunities for all. Sam Flood's statement was the spark. The CBA negotiations are the fuel. What happens next will either be the moment the WNBA fully embraced its economic destiny, or the moment it learned a brutal lesson about the power of the market it helped create. The players are at the table. The owners are at the table. And now, a major network has placed its chips firmly on one side of the bet. The 2026 season, and perhaps the next decade of the WNBA, depends on who blinks first. Underpinning all the financial disagreements is a profound breakdown in trust. The collaborative spirit that marked the last CBA announcement in 2020 is gone. Players like Nafisa Collier have publicly criticized Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. The league feels the players are making unrealistic demands that threaten the league's fragile financial stability just as it approaches profitability. The players feel the league is using scare tactics about losses to avoid sharing real wealth. This toxic environment makes compromise excruciatingly difficult. As Brianna Stewart stated, the meetings get sidetracked by the language, verbiage, and context. We're missing the point. The point is a fundamental disagreement over what the players are worth and who gets to define that value. Rebuilding that trust is as important as splitting the revenue pie. Let's look deeper at the boom that's fueling this fight. The 2024 numbers are not just good, they are paradigm shifting. The WNBA attracted over 54 million unique viewers across all its national networks. Social media video views quadrupled to nearly 2 billion. The WNBA app saw monthly users grow by 252%. This wasn't isolated to the US. Viewership in Canada was up 148%, and games are now broadcast in 207 countries. The players see this explosive global growth and believe it translates directly to higher media rights deals, more sponsorship, and greater franchise values. They argue that their 30% gross revenue ask is modest compared to other leagues and is simply a fair reflection of their role in creating this new, valuable enterprise. The league's counter-argument hinges on the cost of achieving that growth, massive investments in marketing, charter flights for all teams, and improved facilities, and the need to ensure the league is built on a sustainable, profitable foundation for the long term, not just a momentary surge. Amidst all the media and contract drama, it's crucial to remember what started this. Caitlin Clark's otherworldly talent. In her rookie season, she didn't just meet expectations. She rewrote the record books. She set the WNBA single-season record for assists with 337 and notched a record 19 assists in a single game. She recorded the first 2 triple-doubles by a rookie in league history and set rookie records for points, 769, and three-pointers made, 122. This on-court production is the bedrock of her icon status. It's the reason the conversation exists. While players like Aya Wilson were setting their own historic records for scoring and rebounds, and Angel Reese was shattering rebounding marks, Clark's style, defined by audacious deep shots and visionary passing, caught the cultural zeitgeist in a unique way. Her game is not just effective, it's must-see TV. NBC's bet is that the insight behind that brilliant play will translate into compelling television analysis, making her a dual threat as both a player and a commentator. The transition from player to panelist, however, is not automatic. NBC's own Zena Keita highlighted this, praising Clark's basketball IQ, but noting the distinct challenge of a live TV panel. It requires condensing complex thoughts into tight 30-second windows, playing off other analysts, and managing production cues in your ear, all while appearing relaxed and engaging. This is a different sport. Clark has shown charisma in interviews and viral moments, but the panel format is its own beast. Keita's comments aren't criticism. They're a reality check from inside the industry. Clark's success in this role won't just be about knowing basketball. It will be about performing under a new kind of pressure. Her debut on February 1st at Madison Square Garden isn't just a cameo. It's a high-stakes audition on one of the biggest stages in sports, and how she performs could influence her marketability as much as any game she plays. Is there a way out? ESPN analysts suggest potential paths. On revenue sharing, the league and players could agree to a hybrid model or a shorter-term deal that allows the players to renegotiate once the league's new media revenue becomes clearer. On housing, a compromise could phase out for top earners while maintaining it for rookies and players on non-guaranteed contracts. Perhaps most importantly, both sides need to lean into the wins. The players have already secured charter flights and are being offered historically high salaries. The league has a passionate, growing fan base and skyrocketing valuations. Focusing on these gains, rather than just the gaps, could rebuild the trust needed for a deal. It will require both sides to move from absolutist positions, gross versus net, all housing versus no housing, and find creative middle ground that recognizes the player's value while ensuring the league's financial health. The current standoff is a direct consequence of the groundbreaking 2020 CBA. That deal, announced with optimism by Commissioner Engelbert and President Agumike, was hailed as transformative. It significantly raised salaries, improved travel conditions, and introduced full-paid maternity leave. But it was negotiated before the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, before the 600% merchandise spikes, and before the current media rights boom. The 2020 deal was designed for a league on a steady growth path. The 2026 negotiation is for a league that has been rocketed into a new stratosphere of popularity. The players feel that the old framework cannot contain their new value. They opted out to chase a deal that doesn't just improve their conditions, but fundamentally redefines their partnership with the league in a world where their sport is finally a major cultural and commercial force. What do you think? Is the WNBA right to prioritize a model of collective equality, or does it need to fully embrace a star-driven system to survive and thrive? Let me know your take in the comments below. And if you want to follow every twist in this high-stakes negotiation, make sure you're subscribed. We're just getting started. The ultimate question is bigger than revenue percentages or housing stipends. It's about identity. Will the WNBA remain a league where the collective identity is paramount, where the we is always emphasized over the me? Or will it evolve into a league like the NBA, where celebrating and monetizing iconic individuals is the engine that funds success for everyone? The answer isn't clear-cut. The WNBA's communal spirit is a unique strength and a core part of its appeal to a dedicated fan base. Yet, ignoring the market's loud and clear valuation of its top stars could mean leaving millions, perhaps billions, of dollars and fans on the table. The league's 30th season hangs in the balance, waiting to see if it can forge a new model, one that honors its past of unity, while boldly embracing the star-powered future that is knocking, quite literally, on its door.